What makes a city builder truly perfect? Traffic flowing smoothly, a pumping economy, or the sadistic satisfaction of watching your colonists survive minus 40 degrees? After hundreds of hours spent thriving, collapsing, and rebuilding digital metropolises, I present to you 23 titles that each shine for a unique ingredient. Smell the scent of freshly cut wood in the morning or reinforced concrete. Here, you'll find bread and balance for your teeth. This video is sponsored by Instant Gaming. And speaking of solid teeth, luckily, there are beavers. Yes, because humans have destroyed the planet Earth again. In Timberborn, you'll guide a faction of rodent engineers and must challenge water physics to make your best base survive. Build modular dams and turbines to transform currents into green energy. Every drought cycle dries up the canals, and if you don't store enough food, the colony slowly withers away. If you prefer steel to wood, I have another title for you. The Age of Steam doesn't smell romantic in this case. It smells of burnt coal and peasants asking for bread every 3 minutes. In Anno 1800, you start with 2 huts and a small dock, but in a few hours you can find yourself directing a Victorian metropolis that devours steals, cigars, and top hats like there's no tomorrow. The secret? Kilometer-long production chains. 18 steps just to transform a sheep into a chic coat, while your trade routes race between the old and the new world to stuff warehouses with coffee and rum. But wait, if all this capitalism is causing you an allergic reaction, then it's time to talk about this title. In Workers and Resources Soviet Republic, you are not the mayor, you are a 5-year plan in flesh and blood. From the bauxite mine to the jacket button, every kilo of goods passes under your stamp in a planned economy where rubles jostle with dollars along the Iron Curtain. The game is a gigantic construction set with more than 30 raw materials, conveyor, belts, pipelines and convoys crossing infinite steppes. You build everything from scratch: roads, factories, power plants, and decide whether to import steel at gold prices or make your people sweat on construction sites with prefabs strictly made in Soviet. Then there is people's need: vodka, radio, propaganda, and loyalty to the party. If you pamper them, they'll produce missiles and shirts at a rate that would make even Comrade Stakhanov envious. If you neglect them, they'll turn to crime, or worse, to the West. And since we're talking about tight work schedules, why not to take a trip among pyramid builders? Boiling sand, the Nile up to your ankles, and a royal architect asking you to put up a new sphinx just for yesterday. Welcome to Egypt, 4,000 years ago, polished in HD. In Pharaoh, a new era, if the Nile flood is scarce, you die of famine. If it's too much, you swim with crocodiles. Meanwhile, you ship bricks, beer and workers to titanic construction sites, sphinxes, lighthouses, mausoleums, all while appeasing moody deities with festivals and incense perfumes. With the redesigned interface, you can copy and paste villages, monitor the ratio of permanent workers, and even disable lions if you don't feel like drama today. 50 missions, 100 hours of whip cracks. How many tons of stone are you willing to move to become the most talked about pharaoh in the Nile Valley? But wait, if the solemnity of Egyptian art drives you crazy, maybe it's time to build on something moving. In the Wandering Village, Earth is doomed, so you move directly onto the armored back of a gigantic animal. The game presents poisonous spores, a radioactive desert, and lots of building construction on the back of a dinosaur called Ombu. While the Colossus crosses humid jungles and scorching tundras, you set up compact crops, farms, stilt houses and laboratories that dig through the scrap of the old world. Every choice weighs. Pamper Ombu with wheat soups to earn a restorative nap, or install a drill to suck his blood and accelerate research, risking that with a tail swipe he'll send your warehouse into the abyss. A valid simulator of life between roommates. Going from symbiote to parasite can drastically raise the drama level. Dinosaurs are certainly exotic, but building on a Caribbean island is a much more relaxing experience. Fortunately, El Presidente is back with a lit cigar and a balcony ready for his unrealizable promises. This time you don't govern just one island, you direct an entire archipelago, jumping from colonial times to the present day in 4 eras full of coups, bananas and quick diplomacy. In Tropico 6 you build bridges, tunnels and railways, then you send secret agents to steal the Eiffel Tower. Sure, it looks better in Caribbean sun than in foggy Paris, let's admit it. Between electoral speeches full of hot air, policy research to legalize corruption, every choice influences the vote that you can rig with a click. But don't worry, try to not get caught when you cheat the votes, okay? I mean, everybody would be scandalized if you won with 98% of preferences, that's why I always say 97% and sleep peacefully. If you're not the type of 40 degrees in the sun, you'd certainly appreciate the icy fog of medieval Central Europe. In Manor Lords, the Middle Ages don't come from a fantasy cliché, they come from the head and PC of a single developer who reconstructed 14th century Franconia plot by plot. You start from a muddy market, without grids or snapping. You draw roads that follow the terrain curves, place houses in lots along paths, and sow fields where the soil is truly fertile. Until winter weakens everything and deer migrate away from your too zealous woodcutters. When rival lords' ambition knocked at your borders, you call up militia and peasants, but every fallen soldier is 2 arms less in the field. So either you're rich and hire mercenaries and hope that their shield wall holds against cavalry charges, or you're screwed. The title is still in early access, and we'll need time before we see it completed, but I confess I lose hours just watching the village grow organically, curve after curve. Then the bandits arrive and I remember that I'm a warlord and not a urban planner. Speaking of thick forests, hungry wolves, and that irrepressible urge to pitch tents at the border of the known world, in Farthest Frontier, just one out-of-season frost is enough to transform the pioneer dream into a festival of famine and dysentery. Here the real boss is the vegetable garden. 10 crops with rotation, soil pH, pests and diseases, otherwise goodbye harvest. Meanwhile, you cut wood, hunt deer, forge 32 types of objects, and build over 50 buildings that evolve the mud hut into a house with a solid roof, until prosperity attracts raiders and, if you overdo, the inevitable bubonic plague comes. Playing it reminded me a lot of the video editing phase, dozens of hours of expert seed and plant selection hoping to see subscribers boom. Oh, I meant harvest, but please subscribe. If you need more mythical Europe Middle Ages in your life, I understand you. Let's talk about the next title. 3 survivors, lots of uncultivated land and 0 law. In Going Medieval, you find yourself in the middle of a post-plague medieval period where you can dig 3-story catacombs or put towers up that pierce the clouds, 1 voxel block at a time. Every colonist is a walking novel. Grimida likes pig, hits hard, and demands well-made tunics. If you feed her and build a chapel, she will repay you in the field, especially when brigands arrive with siege ladders and you welcome them with blade traps and boiling oil. It's defined as the medieval rimworld, and given the amount of potential misfortune, the name is well-deserved. If you prefer well-paved roads, especially aligned with the Cardo and the Cumanus, in Pax Augusta you'll feel at home again. Lots of Roman roads, borders to civilize, and you laying out the plan of a forum between goats and legionaries. In Pax Augusta, the Empire names you governor and drops you in the savage north with orders to make marble and splendor rise where now there is only Germanic mud. Build domus, baths, and temples inspired by real structures of the classical urbanism. Entertain colonists with bread, shows, and gladiators. Then sign commercial treaties to import marble and export wine. The city grows organically from narrow alleys to miniature metropolitan colossus, until fires, corruption, and the emperor's whims knock at the door. What strategy would you prefer? Smooth talking the Senate, or betting everything on giant statues to impress the crowd? Have you already exploited every era? Have you already scratched every meter or mile of the planet? Well, in Anno 2205 you take off with high-tech colonies on Earth and mining bases on the Sea of Tranquility to extract helium-3 and power fusion reactor that would make Elon Musk die of envy. Its gem is the session mode, simultaneously manage coastal megacities 5 times larger than the old Anno and pressurized lunar outpost with cargo ships that send oxygen down and microships up into the orbit. The new graphics engine makes levitating taxis fly and shows polar bears patrolling icebergs. You can lose hours balancing hydrogen factories and lunar sawmills while admiring Earth rising beyond the glass dome. And if space seems like a cold environment, try this title and you'll change your mind. A new dramatic ice age is underway. There's a cold generator pulsing like a steel heart. Boom, boom, boom. And you deciding whether to make children work in sawmills just to avoid freezing. This is Frostpunk. In Frostpunk, heat is life, and every degree weighs as much as a ton of pressed snow. Between gear wheels and icy vapors, you establish laws on grueling shifts, sawdust sap, or frost theocracy, while your colony's mood dangerously oscillates between hope and anguish. You send expeditions beyond the crater, research automatons that don't feel the cold, and take on responsibilities as heavy as an iceberg. Also, if you like the political part more, you can play Frostpunk 2, which came out recently. It is perhaps a bit more role-playing and less construction, but it is absolutely a nice game. Actually, I confess I always sign 24 hours work and blame the macroeconomic situation. Do you think if the sun shone just a little more on your fields, you couldn't fear anything anymore? Wrong. This title will surprise you. No gold, no skill trees. In Banished, you start with a cart, 10 frightened refugees, and the awareness that every birth and every grave shifts the economy. Hunting, plows, and 20 trades work as long as it makes sense. But if winter bites and the harvest is poor, famine runs faster than any 5-year plan. If you make mistakes, the game is ruthless. But that's also its beauty. Learning from your mistakes and avoiding repeating them if there is still an opportunity. I've seen villages disappear from a failed harvest. Will you manage to grow 3 generations without digging too many graves? Speaking about balances, if you want to really make the books balance in cities and in your real life, hop over to Instant Gaming. You'll find all the titles we are talking about today and an infinite catalog of AAA strategy games. Indies, DLCs, with discounts that reach even 70 or 80% off the official price. How does it work? Digital key, secure payment, immediate download and activation on your preferred client, like Steam, for example. Zero hassle. Want to example? Anno 1800 and Anno 2205. Official price? Look, I won't even tell you. On Instant Gaming, you can take them home with 80% discounts. Manor Lords costs half, so you can stock up for winter, and if you really don't want to spend a cent, you can try to win any title from the catalog every month through the giveaway. Affiliate link below the video, so you save and also support the channel. Thanks! Good, now that our mood has improved thanks to Instant Gaming discounts, I want to present a much more relaxing title. No grids, no forced rows, because in Foundation you draw the neighborhoods, dusty streets, and even the cathedral shape piece by piece, until the village grows like a medieval bonsai. Just trace housing areas and colonists put up huts. Move the market, and if you treat them too badly, they knock at the convent asking for bread and mercy. Meanwhile, production chains like wood to planks or grain to flour to bread keep the economy alive and fill the Lord's coffer. Yours, that is. I've tried it many times, brought numerous gameplays, and I always get lost among the trays my inhabitants have beaten by themselves just walking on them. Fantastic. But what would happen if a mischievous deity want to insert a deck into a construction game? Yes, a deck of cards and a piece of procedural world. In Kingodms Reborn, you draw buildings like in a tabletop 4X and place them on terrain while climate passes from tropical monsoons to Siberian frost within a few kilometers. Every season reshuffles needs. Draw the brewery card to keep colonists happy, or the commercial port. Draw the brewery card to keep colonists happy, or the commercial port one to trade silk and spices with neighbors. But watch out for recessions that suddenly empty warehouses. But if the only card you like is the synthetic one covering pressurized domes, I have the title for you. Futuristic buildings, sandstorms, and an oxygen counter that doesn't forgive. On Mars, traffic isn't the problem. It's staying alive without sending the colony into blackout. In Surviving Mars, you choose an Earth agency, launch drones, and raise retrofuturistic domes where brilliant scientists can turn into chronic alcoholics if you make them work too hard. Every playthrough brings out a different mystery, luminous spheres, black cubes, or other goodies worthy of Asimov that can save you or vaporize your colony. Speaking of dystopian scenarios, do you know this one already? Dystopia, no objectives, no budget. In Dystopika, you shape a neon dream or nightmare, placing skyscrapers, giant holograms and billboards, rolling offers, to those who never sleep. The city pulses by itself procedural traffic, lights raining from a mega screen, constant rain from Metropolitan Noir. You only decide where to put the next flashing logo and when to walk away. In complete silence. Cyber Zen. You lose yourself taking screenshots with rain and synth music in headphones. Tell me, what skyline would you create? Romantic Tokyo Night or a dystopia depressing enough for any aspiring Ryan Gosling? Enough future scenarios. If we think of the aesthetics of the Roaring 30s, steam and dividends in Rise of Industry, you buy a turnip field in the morning and transform it into an automobile assembly line before sunset, while cargo airships zip above a procedural world that grows or collapses with your budget. With 150 products in the supply chain, for example milk to ice cream, copper to radios, rubber to tires, you design networks of trucks, rails and zeppelins, secure lucrative contracts and keep an eye on competitors who could steal a factory or make you swallow a hostile takeover. City AI raises demand, lowers prices and steals your niche in seconds. The best optimize every route to save cents per kilometer, but sometimes even they get overwhelmed by the gramophone trend. Do you aim for slow and solid profit, or want to throw yourself into the next market bubble? But stop. In a remote corner of the kingdom, you could plant the first hut far from the noise of modern life, but you would immediately realize that deer, wolves and oaks weren't exactly waiting for you. Here, every creature eats, drinks, reproduces and dies following its own rules. You can only decide how much space to try to steal from the forest. Manage resources and villages on different climate maps, balancing wells, mills and warehouses while seasons play dice. This is of life and land. 30 summer, winter that breaks harvest, spring that makes tulips explode, or epidemics. If you overdo expansion, wolves disappear. If you let them run free, they'll be the ones having lunch with your sheep. How far are you willing to push nature before it takes everything back at once? Now stop everyone. Let's imagine everything that could go wrong went worse. But now the catastrophe is finally behind us. An old bus in front of a radioactive desert that changes face with every storm. In Endzone 2, you place camp wherever you want, then race through ruins full of loot and deadly troubles. Manage multiple settlements connected by truck routes and convoys. Recycle scrap and restore old technology. Research water filters before drought dries up wells and keep an eye on radiation. With acid rains, mushrooms will sprout, but also bandits who love your water supplies almost as much as you do. There are those who always end up detouring the caravan just to collect some mysterious container. Sometimes it's a microchip, sometimes it's an announced disaster. Because look, there would be an alternative, don't worry. But things can go much worse than this, and after the apocalypse, zombies might arrive. Luckily, our satellite navigator is here to help us. Enter Rome, Tokyo or your village name, and the game downloads the map from OpenStreetMap and wishes you good luck. Convert supermarkets into warehouses, barricade your old high school, grow gardens or sports field, and place watchtowers on roundabouts, knowing that sooner or later, a zombie horde will test your walls. Every pharmacy raid is a dice roll. Useful medicines or infected in the shadows? One of the two. I defend my hometown, I have too many memories, but I transform my first video game shop into a fortress. Where will you place your free zone before the city and undead reclaim everything? Don't want a realistic map? Prefer a distant journey? Actually, Queen Arsa would have an idea for you. She sends you to the world's worst forest, but also expects results before the next plague storms arrive. In Against the Storm, every run is a new roguelike settlement where humans, harpies, beavers, lizards and foxes want houses, beer and cakes, while acid rain drops morale every cycle. You can build lightning villages, exploit random environmental bonuses, trade with passing merchants and decide whether to appease everyone or push only the species you need to complete royal orders. When the forest rebels, dismantle everything and start elsewhere, taking permanent resources with you to power up the burning city. You should find a good compromise between the Queen's urgency and inhabitant survival. Good luck! And I want to tell you something. If you made it this far, I want to hug you and thank you. You're a truly fantastic person, and if you write top in the comments, you will get a little heart. I swear, I will give it to everyone. But we still have one title to talk about, and it's worth it, because it is the ultimate sandbox. Modular traffic regulated by artificial intelligence, sewer networks, district policies, natural disasters. But the real ace is the modding community. Realistic intercity boosts, real-scale maps, cinematic tools. Cities Skylines managed to become the true king of contemporary city builders and snatch the scepter that old Emperor SimCity held. You can build your dream city or try to replicate New York and spend hundreds and hundreds of hours focused on fixing the settlement that makes you proud. A must for every genre enthusiast, but given the vastness of DLCs and mods, the first chapter remains a great game even in 2025. If you like this list and you're looking at your wallet like a Soviet engineer looks at his daily ration of cigarettes and vodka, stop. Don't forget that every purchase made on Instant Gaming lets you really save. Don't forget you'll always find the affiliate link, especially under every one of my videos. These are my 23 favorite building blocks. Which ones are you already downloading? Or maybe I forgot one that obsesses you? Leave a comment, smash like, subscribe, and see you in the next episodes. Maybe a gameplay on your favorite title will arrive.